serving you a dose of wisdom and humor with a dash of radiance. Welcome to Biscuits and Sunshine with your hosts, Callie and Landra.
Hey y'all, pull up a seat at our table for your next serving of Biscuits and Sunshine. I'm Callie.
And I'm Landra. It makes me hella happy to have you here with us. We're recording this from Distance 4 Audio Studios in Athens, Greece. Welcome to episode 19, Veka Inea. Pame, let's go. On today's episode, we're examining the topic of joy, which is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness.
Oh, interesting. I always sort of thought you can't use a word in a definition to define itself. And so, it was only a few years ago that I really dug into the difference between joy and happiness. What is that? Can you articulate it for us?
I sure can. I actually looked into that. So happiness is more of a temporary feeling that's attached to something external, whereas joy is a longer lasting state of being, and it is cultivated internally, and it's usually characterized by contentment and satisfaction. And I was thinking of learning Greek and how the Greeks have a phrase that's used very often in conversation of mia hara, which is a translation, it's a joy. And I love how when you ask somebody, how are you, that is one of the ways in which you can respond.
Ne, mia haraime. I love that. So when we think about happiness, it's more externally motivated, and joy is something we feel within ourselves. Something that we do, something we have.
Exactly.
Interesting. I like this because you can be happy for someone, but maybe not feel joy within yourself. Maybe your life is really chaotic or there's a lot of struggle, but you can see someone else and say, oh, well, I'm happy for them. And I think sometimes we get a lot of that, like, oh, I'm happy for you, but the undercurrent is, but I'm really sort of unhappy everywhere else. Like, I have no joy in my own life. And I feel like one of the things that I have made it my own mission, personally, is to really be happy for people when they accomplish things or do things or get things. And for me, it starts with being satisfied where I am in my own life.
I love that you mentioned that because as I was thinking about joy and did a little bit of research, I came across an article that talks about sympathetic joy. Have you heard of that before?
No, I haven't.
It's so interesting. So it's not just feeling joy for yourself, but kind of what you're speaking about, like taking joy in others, taking pleasure in others' joy that they're noticing and they're witnessing.
I like that because it's much deeper than just being happy for someone. It's like truly finding joy in the achievement of someone else.
Right. And then that's really what lights you up inside. And I feel like in a way, that's something that we both share.
Yeah. Also, sympathetic joy feels like the opposite of schadenfreude, which I'm probably butchering that word. I learned about it through the musical Avenue Q. But my understanding is that schadenfreude is this happiness at other people's misfortune. And that feels like the opposite of sympathetic joy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In the musical, they talk about like watching a waiter or a waitress drop like a full tray of glasses and like laughing at that. That would be an example of schadenfreude. But let's say the converse of that is being like ecstatic that that waiter or waitress stacked 3 layers of glasses on top of each other and made it to the bar. That could be a good little juxtaposition of those two feelings.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, you did something incredible and you made it. And that person's feeling joy and you're like witnessing it and applauding them.
In some ways, I think as I work through this topic in my mind right now, live in person, we do a really interesting job of sort of putting schadenfreude on a pedestal. When you think about reality TV, right?
Exactly.
We love to watch people who make us feel better about ourselves. Whether that's the toddlers and tiaras and we hate the moms, whether it's Honey Boo Boo, whether it's the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and we think, what the hell is going on in their brains? We, as a species, I think, enjoy that. It sort of makes me cringe. I started to watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. My whole body sort of tenses up. It's not an enjoyable experience for me. So I think I over-index maybe in sympathetic joy. I hate when people are embarrassed. I can't stand watching I Love Lucy because I feel that for her. I want to
hide, like she's embarrassed, or
yes, I want to turn in on myself because it's so mortifying for me. But in this commercial age where reality TV has taken off in the last 20 years, we love to watch other people's misfortune. Now, they're making millions of dollars off of this, but one has to ask themselves, are they in on the joke or are they the butt of the joke? I guess money is money, but still, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering, is it just the way that our brains are wired, or is it just easier? I think this is my hypothesis, just easier to, like you said, take pleasure when something isn't working out. Because it's like, I don't know, there's something in there, the wiring, I wonder, versus the sympathetic joy. What I learned, and joy in general, is that, we are all wired differently, and it takes work to start to notice, turn towards what is it that is joyful in my life, noticing on purpose. It takes work to, oh, wow, I'm noticing that in another and letting that be a connection for expression of joy.
Absolutely. I remember reading an article about Brene Brown, and she talked about foreboding joy. And sometimes we have a problem trusting joy because it doesn't come along that often for whatever reason, for whatever past experience. Foreboding joy is, ooh, it's good now, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes.
Things cannot be this good all forever. And so I'm living in tenseness because I'm waiting for bad stuff to follow.
Right.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because the world is not always an easy place to be in. And sadly, when we do turn on the news, there's a lot of things that are heartbreak. The news leads with war, with,
The phrase is, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I grew up sort of in my journalism days. That's what people said.
Yeah, so it's kind of counterculture, I guess, to search for joy. And so it's not a surprise, I think, too, this is something that, when I think about myself, I think there is an undertone where I can lean towards maybe more the joy, but it still takes work to continue to really cultivate joy. And what I'm realizing, like you said about, what was it, the study with Brene Brown, or that she talked
Foreboding joy.
Foreboding joy, that joy doesn't have to be this thing where everything else is perfect for the joy to exist.
Right.
I think what I've started to learn in my own life experience is that things can be hard, things can just really be sad, but I could still find joy somewhere. And so it is actually our range of emotions, two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, not to compartmentalize joy away from every other feeling. Sort of like Inside Out, where all of the emotions live together in the movie inside the little girl. Joy sometimes is running the show, sometimes fear takes in, sometimes anger, sometimes sadness. They're all right there together, but they all work in concert together.
Oh, that is adorable. You've been talking about this movie. I still haven't seen it, and now I cannot wait to check it out.
Good. It's so good. I know it's so elementary, but it was one of the things that my therapist said to me this summer. You should just remind yourself, she was watch Inside Out 2, it just came out. Remind yourself how these emotions all work in concert and how you can't shut off one without diminishing all the others. You can't limit your capacity for joy without limiting your capacity for deep emotion, or protect yourself from pain without limiting your capacity for joy.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? When you say that, it's noticing what's going on internally of are there feelings of oh my gosh, this is so joyful, I'm going to allow myself to feel it and just truly feel it? Or are we yay, joy, and oh, because then fear then is starting to probably drive, maybe you're being, like you said, the driver's seat. So, yeah. Huh. What are some things, I'm curious, if you think about joy in your own life today, what are some things that bring you joy?
I've been talking a lot with a friend about the stars, and I am a nerd for the sky and weather. Like, I am such a nerd. So for me, joy comes from these things that I have loved my whole life. And maybe I put aside because it wasn't cool. Like, I love the stars. I'll never forget the night that we were in Milos. We were having dinner. And I was like, oh, I think that's Saturn. And your husband was like, wait. And he pulled out the most amazing app. And we were able to like point it to the sky. And it's Saturn, Mars. We saw both of them. And I thought, oh, yeah, he's one of my people. Like, we're in the same tribe because we both allowed ourselves to lean into the fact that we geek out about something so cool as the stars. To me, that is joy.
I remember that moment. I actually think I have a photo of you two looking out on the balcony up at the sky. And I thought, oh my God.
I use that app all the time now. Like when I'm walking to my workouts in the morning and it's dark, I'm like, oh, I bet that's Jupiter. Whip out my app. I'm standing in the middle of like the street, carefully, of course, and I'm staring up at the sky. I wonder what people think when they see me, but I don't care because I love it.
You are just swimming in your joyful moment.
Joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Oh, another thing that brings me joy. Singing.
100%.
I love to sing. I was just actually telling my parents how one of the things that is missing from my experience now is some sort of organized singing opportunity. Because ever since I was 16, I've been in the choir at church. I sang, all through my school days. I took singing lessons when I was at university. Like, it's just a thing. I love to sing. And I feel like being able to find a group to sing with will help me be more in my body because I'm more aware of the instrument that I have.
Oh, I see a link between that creativity and what sparks joy in you. And when I just said the phrase spark joy, did you ever get into Marie Kondo?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and she talks, so the lady that is all about like, how do you minimalize and keep the things around you that are most necessary, but also her phrase is, does it spark joy?
Yeah.
And so for a while, that was something that I was using as a filter as I was going through. Moving was a great example of that because you have all this stuff and you're like, am I really using this? Do I really need this? And kind of what's essential? But then there was like a joke it just became in our house. It was like, but does it spark joy?
Actually, I feel like I sort of use that index without naming it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have that desk in the house now. I'm ready to get rid of it because it's just like holding books and collecting dust.
Yeah.
But I want to remove that because my desk no longer sparks joy. A larger analogy for where I am in my life with my relationship to work. But I want to create like a painting corner because that really does bring joy to my life. And so I feel like that section of the house and that light that comes in that window is going to be way more useful as a painting corner versus just a glorified bookshelf.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring that back, in a way of like a filter.
I can tell you something else that's not sparking joy right now, my closet. I just need to Marie Kondo that. But it's time to switch closets anyway. So generally by the end of the season, like I've lost all sense of organization in my closet because I know like the switch is coming. And so I'll have to pull everything out and put everything back in a new way. But I'm so ready to do that.
It's been way warmer throughout fall.
Yeah, we had like real hot days into October. It's wild.
Yeah, it's actually making me think every time I flip my closet, this is like a little kind of going down closet management. I always think about this. Okay, there's things that I continually put back in my closet that I'm not wearing. And I don't know if you've come up with this hack. I want to do it because I tried at one point and I just gave up. I'm like, I'm going to do it. You hang things backwards, meaning that like, for example, instead of just like hanging the hanger forward, like easy to grab, you once you wear it, you do it the other way.
Oh.
So that way, once you wash stuff, you start to notice your hangers tell you what you're wearing and what you're not.
Oh, okay, cool.
And if it's been like a whole season or even like a couple months in, if I'm not wearing that, like, why is it there?
True. I could tell you right now, my summer closet, the only things that are still hung up are the things that I haven't worn at all the whole season.
So I do feel like it will bring me joy to have a little bit more management in my wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Because I'm at the point now where, again, time in my life and like been through a lot of different like changes with fashion and whatnot. I kind of know what my style is. And of course, I'll accessorize here and there. But I'm kind of done with fast fashion because number one, it's not good for our planet. But then number two, it's like I'd rather buy fewer things and more quality that's going to last.
I saw this great story the other day about a woman who is maybe from Finland, and she makes wool sweaters by hand. And the
Wow.
sweaters are like 120 euros each, but they are such high quality. The wool that she uses, the patterns are really bright and really intricate. She found a dupe on Shein's website and she ordered it for 20 euros to see what it was like. Like all polyester, first of all.
Oh,
But when you put them side by side, it was creepy how similar they were.
mm,
And it sort of, for me, I was like, that 20 euro sweater is going to be gone in one season. It's like, I had a friend in college, my college roommate actually, who would always tell me, like, if you're struggling with a purchase, back when clearly no one has money at college,
yeah.
if you're struggling with making a purchase, divide the cost by how many times you're going to use it or wear it.
My roommate did the same thing. We used to talk about the depreciation value.
Yeah. And so, like, when it came to a fancy dress, probably not worth it. But when it came to a $100 pair of leather boots that I would wear every day for the whole season, like, no question.
Yep.
And that $100 pair, I still have them. I still have them because they were good quality boots versus having to rebuy every single season.
Nice. I'll take it a step further. We're just taking tangents here, people. This is bringing me joy in the moment, so we're going to go with it. Another one, same friend, her dad had said this to her and she shared it with me. And I'm like, oh, I really like that. Is like if a purchase is, like you said, $100 expensive, is do the math. So even if you're making a salary, but how many hours are you technically working? Do the math to figure out your hourly rate. Or if you're making hourly money, you'll know that. And then do the math and divide it by that purchase and figure out how many hours you have to work in order to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
And then that's another way of like, ooh, is it worth like 5 hours of work or a full day's work, whatever? Then, that's another way to justify and or like a filter to kind of use for a purchase.
I love that. I had an older family member tell me once, oh, well, maybe if you didn't buy coffee out every day, you would save money. And I was like,
But coffee brings me joy.
are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to become a millionaire by not buying a cup of coffee. It just, to me, felt so out of touch because it is the moment where, especially when I was still living in the US, now coffee is even cheaper. But like, let's say a $4 cup of coffee at 10 a.m. if I'm walking across the street, it's a chance to get up from my desk. I'm generally asking a coworker to go with me. We're sitting and chatting while we're waiting. It was such a mental health break when you think about joy.
Yeah.
That it wasn't something I was willing to give up on.
That's so good. And, you just got me thinking about it, and I will continue to think about in my day. Yeah, where are those moments that are just ordinary? Because, like that's just what we do. Like think about so many people like coffee break, but breaking it down a little bit, just like savoring and kind of like, extracting the joy out of something. Because I think we could just do things just out of routine.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we can kind of connect it, I think it goes back to like, how are we able to rewire our own brain
Yeah.
in that way so that we're not going down the road of too much, how do you say it?
Schadenfreude.
Yes.
I mean, I have no idea if that's how you say it. But
Our German listeners will let us know.
So, Landra, what brings you joy in this present moment of life?
Time with friends. And I think specifically, yes, it's nice to hang out, here and there. But when you got us all together to have a dinner, and now we've continued this, we are now taking turns of intentionally coming together. That to me is really joyful. The other thing I was intentional about wanting to seek out and moving here is watching sunrises and sunsets. And I just realized how I'm so lucky that our home is oriented towards the east and the west. So I catch a lot of sunsets because the sun just blasts through my kitchen. And like, oh my God, it's just something so simple. Nature does it every day. It is just like, wow, that to me is just joyful. I've never been a cat person, but I have to say, moving here to Greece, they've just won me over. I have a cat that slinks over from my neighbor's balcony and she just shows up at random times. And when she does, and I get to sneak out there and give her some pets, I'm like, aw, it's so joyful. I'm like, you're like the emotional support animal I never know I needed.
I think we should probably write down all these things that bring us joy. You know me, I'm a big proponent of writing stuff down. I feel like the things that bring us joy change throughout our lives, and it would just be a nice little thing to look back on to think, oh, yeah, I remember Sylvester, or I remember the cat that used to go, like I remember the sunrise we had at Sarakiniko. Like these moments are very much worth remembering.
That's so right. And because, as time goes on, our brain starts to make space for new stuff. And so it can compartmentalize, and sometimes like a computer, dump it, put it in the delete folder. So I love when you said that because I literally have done that sometimes when I've been on trips or I did it when my family came to visit in Greece. So like, what were my top 10 moments? And to really kind of not just say, oh, that dinner we had, but like, right, oh, we sat outside by the sea. We had this, and just like write more specifics about it. And that's been really lovely. And turning to it when has been times of like sadness or nostalgia, I've been able to use it as a tool to go back and read it and like, yeah, and recall those joyful moments.
I was just having a conversation with my mom about this. I had said something about, oh, that feels like another lifetime ago. And she said every like period of your life is almost a different lifetime. She said she kept a sort of extensive journals when she traveled through Europe in her 20s and when she was at university. And she did a little bit after my brother was born, but she was like, once you have kids, it's impossible. It's like you have no time. But she said it's a moment for me to look back and sort of dip into who I was then. I feel like we take for granted the fact that we won't remember these moments forever. Like you said, our brains may choose to dump some things in order to make room for more wonderful memories. But if we put them somewhere where we don't have to hold them ourselves and we can always refer back to them, I think that's really valuable. Almost like a book of joy.
Funny you should mention the Book of Joy because I was recalling that. That's an actual real book that I read. I did the audiobook, was read to me. And it is lessons of finding joy in even tough times. And it's a conversation between the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And I can't tell you how joyful it was to hear the book because it wasn't actually them. They had hired actors, voice actors to read the book. But what was so lovely is they did it with their own like similar accents. So that was nice. As you can imagine, the Dalai Lama from Tibet, Desmond Tutu from South Africa. And man, it was such a wonderful book. And, they talk about the struggles, not only in their own communities and in the world, but still how they use joy as a tool to help reorient them to the connection that we have as interconnectedness as human beings. And kind of punctuated what I said earlier, that it's possible for joy to live aside some tougher emotions. So I highly, highly recommend it. I have one quote I wanted to share here that just really resonated with me. This is a quote by the Dalai Lama. He said, "Sadly, many of the things that undermine our joy and happiness we create ourselves. Often it comes from the negative tendencies of the mind, emotional reactivity, or from our inability to appreciate and utilize the resources within us. We can create most of our suffering, so it should be logical that we have the ability to create more joy."
Mm.
And to me, I was like, so interesting because I had written that quote down and wanted to look at it at some point in time, but we naturally got there on our own.
Yeah, we did.
And so how great to then go, oh yeah, and this is the wisdom of the Dalai Lama. It just is like a beautiful reminder that, and somebody said this to me a long time ago, and it's so true when you're like in the discomfort of life. The world will grab you by the wrist and will yank you around, do this, do that, be this, have that. And it's not until we stop and find our center to kind of go, wait, what is it that I want? And sometimes that can be in a place of like scary because it's easier to let somebody else be in charge. But when we can stop and go, hold on a second, like, whoa, 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 what is it that we talked about this so often, right? These choices that I want to make for my life, not what society tells me, what my family has told me. It takes work, but the reward, I think, is that much sweeter. So I just think him really punctuating that is reminding that we have it within us, that we can create more joy.
Also, it reminds us that we play a role in our own suffering. Oftentimes, I think people can be a little too victim-minded. Like, why is this happening to me? I say people, we all do this. I do this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what did I do to deserve this? when I think there's always a small amount of culpability in everything. And so reminding ourselves that, okay, what role do I play in this and how do I stop? And sometimes the role we play in our own suffering isn't even obvious to us. I'm thinking about a time in my own life when the idea of attachment styles came into play. And I'm sitting here, I'm dating someone, I'm sort of anxious, and I'm thinking, gosh, this person truly isn't right for me because I'm so uptight. I feel like I'm obsessing about this stuff. And I realize that I'm doing this to myself. I'm sort of thinking worst case scenario. I have this tendency anyway. I think it's what makes me really good in crisis communication is that I can think through all possible scenarios because I want to prepare for the worst. But when it comes to relationships, this can be very damaging. And so I really had to take a hard look at what role I was playing in my own anxiety. And this idea, we talked about it as I was going through this issue. Sort of like to bring my brain back to neutral. Okay, yes, these are all the things that could go wrong, but this is all the ways it could also go right.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to find a way to balance myself back out. And just being able to do that didn't stop it for me, but it really did help me sort of be present in the moment and aware of the fact that I do this, which really helped me.
Mm-hmm. I like that analogy or that example because, it's not making yourself wrong. It's just knowing your humanity and also that part of you that works well in crisis communication is great in your job. And so it's just knowing, when to turn it on and the right reasons and when to go, oh, I see you. No, this is not helpful right now. You got me thinking that, joy and good feelings don't always feel natural or safe for us. So this is something that, again, we all have different kind of temperaments. And for some of us, we might be like, well, actually, yeah, that is pretty easy, accessible thing for me. But for others, it might not be. And so there takes a little bit more effort to kind of, work at cultivating joy, noticing even what it is that brings joy. And so I don't know. I just think this is it's an interesting thing to think about. I think joy, again, goes a little deeper, being an inside kind of job versus happiness. And, it's external. And again, it goes back to marketing and things people want to sell us, like be happy, be happy. And how you do that, happiness looks like this. When this, like you said earlier, is like, no. You have to do some of the work yourself. And I think the more that we can, just bring these topics up and just talk about it between us, I think it really brings a little bit more intentionality to how we live our most authentic life.
To be truly joyful, we have to be able to experience the full range of human emotion.
That's right.
To me, that's what an authentic life is. To be fully human and to know where I belong within myself, within my family, within my community. The sense of being able to cultivate a life that is authentic to me, I don't think that comes without being able to be both joyful and also sorrowful in the moment.
Mm-hmm. And also acceptance.
Yeah.
That all parts of you are allowed and accepted and normal to be felt. And I might have said this before, so pardon me if I have. Emotions are energy in motion. They are meant to move through us. We are meant to feel it. Because I have lived at a point in my life, I've had heartbreak and death happen around me, these really tough, sad things. I really do feel like the darkness. I then be able to feel the joy so much more deeply in contrast. That's been my experience. And I think when I was in it and when it was dark, I think that I would have been like, yeah, right. So it's one of those things, again, you have to experience it to have your own experience to notice, oh, right, this is true for me.
It comes back to the idea of if you limit your ability to feel sadness, you will also limit your ability to feel joy. And I feel like the sadness piece is what we as a culture don't do well with. No one wants to glorify bad feelings. No one wants to encourage because it can feel like a slippery slope. Oh, well, if you're sad, feel sad. But like, when do you stop feeling sad? Everybody's timeline is different. Like you said, we all have an internal clock that makes us different from the person next to us. And I don't think we as a people do well. Well, Western culture doesn't do so well with helping us work through the difficult feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this idea of good vibes only. I hate when I see that on people's dating profiles. I'm like, automatically, A, too cliche, but B, if you do not allow me to be sad, it's like I've dated people who are like, don't cry. Whatever you do, don't cry. Please don't cry. You've just limited a very large, part of my self-expression.
Red flag, run.
Right? Like, it isn't about me crying. What about my tears makes you feel a certain way? Anyway, I feel like we're getting off topic. But I do fully believe now, having the perspective of almost 4 decades of life, that you have to feel both sadness and joy in equal measure when they arrive in your life. You have to work through them and feel through them. As we wrap up another episode here on Biscuits and Sunshine, we want to give a big thanks to all of those who support us through this endeavor. Our families, our friends, our ever-growing tribe of like-minded individuals. As always, a big thanks to Alex at Distance Sport Audio for his excellent technical sound expertise.
Our hope for you this week is that you make an effort to notice the simple joy in your life.
If you love what we're serving up, be sure to subscribe and rate us on your favorite streaming platform. Also, head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Biscuits and Sunshine, all spelled out.
This is Biscuits and Sunshine with Callie and Landra.